Ivan Rodriguez, he's an ASU graduate.
Please, if you have a cell phone, put it on silent.
Okay.
You ready? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to start a regular session. Mayor and City Council meeting, 6 p.m. Wednesday, February the 6th. Council chambers, I call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Madam Clerk.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to be skipping invocation, and we're going to move to call to the public, item number 4. And we have, I believe, 3? Yes, 3. And we'll start with Linda Rushton. Please state your name and your address, please.
I'm sorry, you come around this way. Okay.
Good evening. I'm Linda Rushton at 269 West Loma Street, Nogales, Arizona. Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm here to give you good news. The trolley has been completed, and we are looking forward to having many exciting moments with the trolley. It is now at Public Works. There is still space available. This is the little trolley I got in San Miguel de Allende, who has numerous trolleys, as does Guanajuato have numerous trolleys. We want to see our city-owned trolley doing tours, working with Little League, working in parades. Let's have a Name the Trolley event. Let's put it on the website. When we did the car show at Tubac, many people were very interested in hearing that we're going to do historic tours of downtown in the trolley. We now have 6 or 7 young people who are going to be trained on the history of Nogales, dressed in period costumes so that they can do the tours. Lately, the trolley has been on display at Villa's Market, the Americana, and the McDonald's on Mariposa. We need to have the City Council get some money for the trolley, to designate money to keep it in good repair and help with drivers and fuel and that kind of stuff. It will be a tourist item. We look forward to having it as the mascot of Nogales. And we need to pick a name. Now, we've had many suggestions. Wally the Trolley, Molly the Trolley, Tamale the Trolley. My personal favorite is Trolley Linda, but I don't think that would go over real well. All right. Please make sure that this trolley is used for the city. It is a city vehicle, and we expect it to bring in tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Russell. Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
And next, Victor Fontes.
Thank you.
Yeah, please state your name and your address, sir.
Victor Fontes, 537, Camino Agosto, Rio Rico. Letty asked me to take my hat off. He le dije, look, I don't have much left up here. It's embarrassing.
That's good of her, dude.
Could I get a deferment? Trump did. Anyway, I am here because I was sent here by 2 very old aunts that live around Nelson and East Street. They're very old, in their 90s, but very astute. And they said that razor wire vertical portion of the fences are, in Spanish they use the word asquerosidad. It's just beyond disgusting. And they said, do something. So I promised them I would come over and maybe voice an opinion or a suggestion, which is, there's a photo floating around, I think the International took it. It shows a school bus and then the razor wire vertically on the wall. And I took it and I added to it, Mr. Trump, please take down this wall. And then there's another one too, and the same thing, Mr. Trump, please take down this wall. And a lot of people liked them. It's a suggestion that if we're not going to get anywhere with the Border Patrol or Homeland Security, we're going to be ignored, period. No matter what we do, lawsuits may be filed and they'll still ignore us. They're autonomous and they could give a damn. What I would suggest is spend a few $1,000s, put those photos that say Mr. Trump, take down this wall. One for the LA Times, the Washington Post, and the New York Times, and let them run for a few days. That's my suggestion, and I'll tell my aunts I did what I could do, and they'll be very proud of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fuentes. And next we have Sherry Nixon.
Good evening, I'm Sherry Nixon and I live in Rio Rico, 537 Camino Agosto. When I saw that photograph of the school bus in front of that concertina wire, that razor wire next to the wall, it made me want to cry. It did. It did. And I don't know why we should stand for that. They didn't ask us, did they?
No.
They did not. Okay, well, I've been doing a little reading, okay? And, well, over in Texas, in Mission, Texas, there's a butterfly reserve. They are on the Rio Grande, and they got their property confiscated. That may well be next for us here, okay? It's a possibility. They filed suit to keep them from building the wall there, and I wish them all the luck in the world. Now, another thing, I read this from an article in the Military Times, November 22nd. It's an article by Tara Kopp, and I crunched it down here. Anyway, Cabinet order was signed by the White House Chief of Staff John Kelly that allows Department of Defense military to have protective activities or participate in protective activities that the Secretary of Defense determines necessary to protect border agents, including a show of force, including lethal force, where necessary, for crowd control, temporary detention, and cursory search. And it was also signed later, according to Newsweek, by President Trump. This may conflict with the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act, where the armed forces perform tasks assigned to them solely for the purposes of a civilian government. It's prohibited. And also, when the armed forces perform tasks assigned by an organ of the civil government, such as the Border Patrol, this law was intended to protect the states from being controlled, and I would say also occupied, by federal troops. To keep the president from conducting crowd control or law enforcement domestically and ensuring that the U.S. military is not used to control or defeat American citizens on U.S. soil. An executive order cannot overturn posse comitatus, and I would urge you to please lawyer up, make a protest, file a lawsuit, because they're turning our town into a military base. Okay, it's like the front lines of some kind of war zone. I urge you to please take a stand and have them get rid of that. At least get rid of the razor wire. It's a public nuisance. In any case, it's lethal. If somebody gets tangled up in that, you know, they could be killed. And under the present rules of engagement, the military, if somebody throws a rock, they can use lethal force against them. Now, if people come down here and start protesting, we could have really big problems. People could get killed by our own army. I urge you to ask them to cease and desist. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members of the City Council, what I'm going to be doing is we're going to skip the orders and come back to them. We're going to go to item number 6, resolution. Do you have a motion?
So moved, man.
Second. It's open for discussion. But let me read the top on the resolution.
Yes,
Yes. It's resolution number R 2019-02-001, a resolution of the City of Nogales condemning the use of concertina wire as an indiscriminate use of lethal force by the federal government along the U.S.-Mexican border within the incorporated City of Nogales, Arizona. And I'm going to have the Deputy City Manager please read the resolution. Would you, Mr. Kissinger?
Yes, sir. In English? So I won't read the caption because you already read it,
yes,
Mayor.
yes, that's
So it
whereas.
starts off with, whereas the City of Nogales is located on the southern border of the state of Arizona and with an approximately 8 to 20 foot border wall that separates and divides the U.S. from Mexico. And whereas the City of Nogales has a population of approximately 20,000 inhabitants, while Nogales, Sonora, Mexico has an estimated 400 to 500,000 inhabitants. And whereas on any given day there are hundreds of law-abiding citizens from both countries crossing the border and living alongside the border who come into contact with the border and its infrastructure. And whereas the City of Nogales recognizes the importance of cross-border trade and business with Mexico as its most important economic resource. And whereas the City of Nogales desires to maintain a safe and secure border for all without impeding or giving the perception of impeding the lawful and efficient crossing of goods and people. And whereas in November 2018, the United States military came to the City of Nogales and started installing concertina wire at the port of entries and along the international border wall. And whereas concertina wire has sharp razor-like blades that are coiled and designed to entangle its victims as the razors slice and cut deeply into the flesh and cause indiscriminate injuries which can be fatal. And whereas these initial concertina wire were installed at a height where it would only indiscriminately harm or kill anyone who actually scales the border wall. And whereas on February 1st, 2019, the United States military and the federal government started installing horizontal strands of concertina wire on the U.S. side of the border wall from the top of the wall to the ground, and whereas placing coiled concertina wire on the ground is typically only used in war, battlefield, and prison settings, and not in an urban setting such as downtown Nogales, Arizona, and whereas placing coiled concertina wire that is designed to inflict serious bodily injury or death in the immediate proximity of our residents, children, pets, law enforcement, first responders is not only irresponsible but inhumane. And whereas the City of Nogales has a section in its development code that bans the use of this type of fencing in areas other than commercial or industrial storage area, and only at a minimum height of 6 feet. And whereas the border wall with its deadly concertina wire is located in a well-traveled and populated commercial and residential areas, and it is economically and operationally unfeasible for the City of Nogales to place barriers to protect its residents and visitors from this concertina wire. Now therefore, resolved by the Mayor and Council of the City of Nogales that 1, the federal government take immediate action to remove all concertina wire from the border wall and fencing located within the corporate city limits of Nogales, Arizona. 2, no military force or use of military-type tactics designed to inflict indiscriminate harm be allowed in the City of Nogales without a declaration of war by Congress by Congress of the United States or the declaration of a national emergency. And 3, staff is directed to take all necessary and reasonable actions in furtherance of said resolution. Passed and adopted and approved by the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona on the 6th day of February 2019, and then it will be signed by the Mayor Arturo Garino, approved to form by Luis Parra, the City Attorney, and attested by the City Clerk, Leticia Robinson.
Member of the City Council, please proceed. There's discussion.
Mayor, thank you. Before I get into what I have to say here and some comments about the resolution itself, because there's some wording in there that has caused problems between the definition of fencing and border wall, and I want to make sure we send a clear message that an individual who favors a border wall isn't confused and tries to use this resolution. But before I get into my comments, Mayor, I think if you feel comfortable, I would like for you to tell the public how disrespectful you were treated this afternoon by the federal law enforcement agencies.
I'll do that. Well, I'm going to tell you what happened. 2 days ago, I had the police chief contact Border Patrol, the Border Patrol chief, and also contact the chief of Customs and Border Protection to see if we could have a meeting with him at 2 o'clock. Because in the morning we had a meeting with the chiefs and with the city manager in reference to the wall, in reference, actually not the wall, but in reference to the concertina wire. Well, they called and they said, no, we don't want to talk to you. And I said, okay, they don't want to talk to us. I guess they don't want to be good stewards of the City of Nogales. So yesterday, they called and they said, tell the mayor if he wants to have a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning today. So I told the chief, I said, no, because I was busy too. So I said, I'll meet him at 1:30. So we went at 1:30, Mr. Kissinger, the assistant chief, and the police chief, and myself to Border Patrol, not to Customs and Border Protection. They didn't want to talk to us. So we went to Border Patrol, and I sat down there and I explained to them how we, the city, had worked closely with them under the past administration and under the past Secretary of State and Commissioner. And they said, yes, we remember you, Mayor. You did well, you helped us a lot when those children that came across and were here, You helped us on that. And I said, yeah, remember that? And he goes, yeah. And I said, remember we did good, huh? We were good stewards. And he goes, yes. And I said, you know, what's with the wire? And he says, we ordered it. And at that time, I was in shock. Because I thought it was the military coming and doing it from the Pentagon. No, they asked for the wire. Because they were told to fortify the border of Nogales. Well, you can fortify a border by having more boots on the ground, by having electronic devices, surveillance, and another thing, excuse me, we receive Stone Garden money for our officers for overtime that they could easily help and back Border Patrol up with boots in the ground. You know, we work together. We're a family here. We have, per capita, we have more law enforcement officers than anywhere else, and this city is a very safe city. And he goes, and then I said, so you plan to take it off sometime, or is it, how long is it going to be here? No, he says, we're not taking it off. It's staying here. And then at that time, well, the Garino side of me came up. And I told the chief, and I told him, I said, you know what, let's get out of here. And I got up, because they weren't being good stewards. We're not going to allow this in Nogales. We're trying to be a business-friendly community. We have children that live right next to it, 10 feet away from it. And they told Mr. Kissinger that there were no homes near it. Well, I don't know where they're going, but up on Short Street, East Street, Escalada, and Hudgens, the homes are right next to the concertina wire. Now they're doing it on International Street, and they're the same. Kids are playing there. They kick balls. They go with their pets out there. And then he goes, and then John asked, are you going to be putting something between? He said, no, we already did. We put signs that says danger. Well, of course, they're going to put signs. Why? Because they want to cover themselves. Well, this is the thing. This is the attitude that Border Patrol had. And I really don't appreciate that. And they should be a little bit more courteous. And I did ask him, I said, you should have had the courtesy calling us. In 2013 or 14, I can't remember, they had a plan of putting concertina wire back then when I was mayor. But back then, the chief Border Patrol agent and one of the top Border Patrols came to my office and said, you know, this is our plan, Mayor. What do you think? And they showed me the plans. They had the courtesy and respect. And you know what I told them? I said, don't do that. And you know what they did? They didn't do it. And they were just going to put a strand of concertina wire on the very top of the fence. But this time around, no respect. This is what we get from Border Patrol this time. And they wanted. So I left the office. We left the office, and I told John and I told the chief. I said, you know what? Let's do the best as we can, as a city, to protect our citizens that can get close to that wire. Our children, anybody. And you mentioned right now, if protesters were to come to town and decide to protest the concertina wire, I don't know what could happen then if they would get close to it. And I fear the day that one of our firemen or police officers have to go there because somebody fell into that wire and they need to extricate that person out of there. Our first responders are going to be also in that position. That is very dangerous. So before I pass it to the next, before we go any further with this, one thing I want to say, Spada, I have a few things I need to do, and I'll tell you before, and please take notes. We need to ask, Freedom of Information Act, we need to ask the amount of jumpers, because this is what he told me, that through that, jumping through there, rapists, murderers, and child molesters jump through there. That's what the Border Patrol agent told me this morning. Okay? That's what he said. So I need to know how many jumpers, if there are any videos, and please tell me, please find out if there's any videos or any information from past issues with Customs and Border Protection and Border Patrol in reference to any injuries with concertina wire. And I'm not talking about just injuries with people on the border, but injuries with them installing it and whatever. Okay? And then the last thing we're going to do is probably start thinking, and this is with the members of the City Council in support of them, if I can get it, and we're going to go for a lawsuit.
Mr. Mayor, I'll follow up with the Freedom of Information Act request as soon as possible.
Thank you. Thank you. We need to do this fast, and you know, because this is I've talked to some people in the federal government, and this is not something that they usually do. So I don't know why is Nogales being used as their concertina poster city or what? This is not right. We can't allow this to happen. Not in Nogales. Billions of dollars of commerce comes through that port. A lot of good people come through that port. And we have good residents in Nogales. Nogales is a beautiful city, and we cannot allow this to happen, and we can allow to go any longer than this, because the worst thing to do is have people up north that want to visit Nogales, come here, and the first thing they see is a wall of wire going all the way to the top, and the first thing somebody's going to think, well, what is on the other side that I'm so afraid of? Those are my concerns, and we have to think about that. The safety part of it, of our citizens, and the economic side of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. On the resolution itself, there's, on the first page of the resolution, there's 5 times that the wording says border wall.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure when on this wording, because I don't want to get caught in a semantics game when we send this up to Washington, D.C., that the Democratic Party and the Speaker of the House is saying border wall. Well, that means that you are in favor of a border wall, whereas we're not looking, because we actually don't have a border wall, with only a small section of our community here, where when they were building the new fence, where they were taking down the old fence and putting Vietnam landing pad fencing there was a section that we didn't want that to be there, and we asked them to redesign it. So I guess you could interpret that as being that small section on both sides of the DeConcini port of entry and the Morley Avenue port of entry is actually a wall. But I don't want our resolution to come back and backfire on us by somebody using it, the trumpeters, trying to say that we favor a border wall. I do not favor a border wall here on this community. And I want the people to know that every member of this council is born and raised in this community. We've lived here all of our lives in this community. We have gone no place else. Here's where we went to school, here's where we earned our living, and here's where we stayed, to be in this community because we love this community. I will offer an amendment to that and see how the rest of the council is. There is one section on the second page that says the Constantine wiring from the border wall and fencing located, and that is an accurate statement, because that little section there, it includes both of it, and I agree with that. But I would like to see the 5 wordings there that says border wall change to fencing, so we are not caught in any kind of semantics game. And I'll offer an amendment to that later. Yes. This crisis that is being portrayed here nationally and internationally, I refer to it as a voodoo crisis. That's all it is. It's something that is made up to try to get a point across. That Constantine wiring is no different than the 35 days of a shutdown. It's just to make a point at our expense. What I think that they're hoping for, Mayor, we live per capita, we live in the safest community in the state of Arizona.
Yes.
Our website says that we were recognized as being one of the top 10 safest cities in the state of Arizona. We're not going to pack up our bags and leave because there's Constantine wiring there. It's ruining our economics, especially on Morley Avenue. It's destroying it. I saw an edition, a local Tucson news edition, that an individual, a couple from Alaska were there. They were going and they decided to come and see the wall. So they pulled in and they said, it's the worst thing we've ever seen. But when the cameras turned down Morley Avenue, you know how many customers I saw walking down Morley Avenue? Not one customer. And people have to people not from our community need to understand that the city of Nogales has no property tax. We are solely reliant on sales tax. That Morley Avenue retail space, that's the livelihood of the city of Nogales. We have no other revenue. And all it's doing is hurting us. Do we have a crisis in Nogales? Yes, we do have a crisis in Nogales. And our crisis, and every member of Nogales knows what that is. It's called the International Outfall Interceptor, the IOI, the sewage that comes from Mexico, where the federal government wants us to take ownership of the 8 miles of the sewer line from the border to the wastewater treatment plant. We cannot afford to do it. We can't afford to repair that. And that's what they want us to do and say, here's $22 million. You're going to be responsible for it. And we have a decision to make of that in March. That's our crisis here. Have we gotten any help? Go down. Let the cameras go down the wash over here and see whether the cement ends. And look at the rest of the wash from there that goes right adjacent to Turley Park and our Little League field where we have tournaments and little kids play. There's no cement. It's full of toxic waste. That's our crisis here in Nogales. There is no other crisis with immigrants over here in Nogales. Since 1970 and 73, during my good friend's presidency, Richard Nixon, what was the lowest time of apprehensions? The lowest. And that's where it is today.
Yes.
So where's the crisis? Why is everybody believing that there's a crisis here? But for the Border Patrol, CBP, to be contemplating the disrespect that they showed you, Mayor, as the formal representative of this city, is totally uncalled for. I think that our administration should look into, as our obligation, to putting up cement barriers around Nelson Avenue along the border there to make sure that those school children that walk through there every day don't accidentally go over there. If that's what we have to do, that's what we should do.
That's why we have that last sentence on there.
And we should do something.
Yes.
Because they're not going to push us around. And if we have to close that street down there and the CBP can't park the cars there, too bad. Find another place to go park. But we cannot go ahead and sit idly. I'm worried, Mayor, because of the adverse effects it's going to have on our economics.
Yes.
And that's going to be affecting our employees and our ability to pay them now. So right now, Mayor, I would like to amend the main.
Can I just say something before you amend?
Absolutely.
You know, there's probably a reason why staff probably used the word wall, is because the design that we have there is some of the designs that were presented to President Trump as a wall. So basically, if he gets $10 billion tomorrow, they're not going to build a wall in Nogales because we have it already. That's the same height, 18 to 20 feet, and it's made of the same metal, same depth, same foundation, everything. They're calling it a wall too. It's not a wall just because it's made out of concrete to the top. They're just calling it a wall because of the height of it and the way it's made, you know, steel. We can amend it if you want to. It doesn't matter, you know, because it's not really a fence. A fence would be, you know, chain link or barbed wire fence, cattle fence or something. But you know another thing? You said we have a crisis with the sewer. No, we have two crises.
Go ahead.
The second one is the concertina wire.
Yes.
That is a crisis. That is a crisis. Because that is going to affect us visually, and it's not pleasing at all for anybody that wants to come to Nogales, like you said. But everybody that sees it, and they've been seeing it in all the news. Because I was on the news yesterday with several stations. They're driving over there to see it because this is happening to us in Nogales here. And I'm glad we're doing this quick. Because this is the only way we can do these things. You let them sit, and we'll have that wire next year.
That's right.
We have to. That wire's got to go down. Yes, please. Yeah. Briefly.
It's like crushing our morale and our spirit.
Yes, it is.
Mayor,
You still want to amend it though?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
As a point of order, if I may.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Varona. So you're considering an amendment to the motion. May I offer up the alternative of a modification as opposed to an amendment, a friendly modification, and perhaps Councilman Rojas, who made the motion and was seconded by Councilwoman Lopez, would be willing to accept your modification.
Go ahead.
Yes.
I'm just asking you to see if you'd be open to
Go ahead.
phrasing it as a modification.
Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
Offer it.
Yes. Go ahead.
All right. So the motion is obviously to approve the resolution, and the modification as friendly modification as requested by Councilman Varona to Councilman Rojas and Councilwoman Lopez is to change the terms border wall. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And the change would be to just steel mesh wall with a 3-inch gap and fencing located within the corporate city limits of Nogales, Arizona? Or
I
is it?
I think what you're offering is more aligned to the statements that the mayor has made, but I want to see progress on this. I just don't want us to get caught in a battle that somebody comes up and uses this on a press conference and says, hey, look at this town over here where we're having all of this crisis with a concertina wire and all of these rapists that are jumping over daily on the fence there. We don't want to be used different. But I'll agree if Councilman Rojas, Councilwoman Melendez Lopez will accept that, that would be fine.
So to clarify, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Councilman Barona, so to clarify, that section 1 would read, the federal government take immediate action to remove all concertina wire from the steel mesh wall with the 3-inch gap
That separates?
and fencing that is located that is located adjacent to the corporate city limits of Nogales, Arizona.
Oh, but you're talking about the preface where it says a resolution? Are you talking about the first part?
I'm the last page, Councilman Barona. That's
Number one?
Yeah, number 1.
No, number 1 is okay. I'm talking about the 5 other border walls where it's mentioned here on the first page.
You're talking about the certain sections where
The second page is fine. The first page,
the first
there's
page,
5
there's certain sections that mentions border wall.
Correct. So you want to
can change
change
it
the
to
term
that.
border wall
Yes.
to steel mesh
Well, it's not
wall
mesh.
with
It's not
3-inch
mesh.
Beam,
It's
still beam.
Steel ballards.
or steel wall.
Steel wall.
To be clear.
That's what it is.
Steel wall.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
just don't like the border wall so we don't get caught
Yeah.
in something.
Just,
that
well,
we
okay,
agree.
let's do this. Let's just remove border from it.
How about existing barrier?
No.
Steel.
Border, it's, you know, because
Border.
it's a wall.
Correct.
Okay, it's a wall. I don't
Correct.
care who says what. It's a
Correct.
wall.
Now-
You can see through it, you can climb it, you can do whatever.
Correct.
But you want to just remove border wall from it? Just border from it?
To just say wall?
Just wall it would be.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Mayor, if I may, on that section though that I pointed out, where it states fencing located within the corporate city limits of Nogales, Arizona, I think there may be, basically this concertina wire, technically, Mr. Mayor, there's a 60 feet, it's not within the corporate city limits of Nogales, Arizona.
No, I know that because there's a buffer zone. We all know that, a buffer zone. But I mean, it doesn't matter. It divides a great city of 400,000, okay? And I've been saying that for years. We are a community of 400,000 people divided by a fence, okay?
Right.
So it doesn't matter if it's within the buffer zone or not. If that wall is dividing us, and the concertina wire is on our side, and let's just so we can move on. Let's just change the part right there where it says border, and leave the other one by itself.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
do the
Yeah.
originators agree?
We
Yes,
do.
yes, we do.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anybody else that wants to say anything?
Call for
Vice
the
Mayor?
question.
No, I'm fine with how it,
Fine.
yes,
Okay. Call for the question.
Yes, sir.
best thing for the town.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. It passed. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll continue. We'll go back to item orders, number 5. Number 1, consideration and possible action of order 2019-01-002, an order of the City Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, approving a sub-grantee agreement with the U.S. Department of Justice and Bureau of Justice Assistance for a body-worn camera grant in the amount of $82,500 in reimbursable capital outlay equipment.
So move, Mayor.
Discussion?
Who seconded the motion?
Second.
Mayor?
Yes. Go
Under
ahead.
discussion. We had this at a study session, and the chief of police indicated to us that he wanted to pull it because there was some concern with it. Now it's back on the agenda. So what was the concern, and why did you put it back on the agenda? Have all the concerns been taken care of?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Varona, members of the City Council, the concern originally was that it's a matching grant, and when the original order came out, it wasn't articulated as a matching grant, and I want to make sure that you guys have the full information of this grant before you guys approve. On the agenda, what we wanted to do was actually give a presentation of the body-worn camera, what it is, and the purpose behind it, because there's some council members that weren't here the last time we gave that presentation. And that way we can break down as far as to how much the city would have to match and what it entails and what we need to do to sustain this project in the future. So with that said, with your permission, Mr. Mayor, if we can give a presentation, it should take about 10 minutes, 15 minutes the most. And so basically what we're going to do is give a presentation as far as to what the body camera entails, the purpose behind it, and the benefits behind it, and break down as far as to what this grant covers and what the matching funds from the city would have to be and the sustainability of this project.
Okay. Go ahead.
And I'll pass it on to Lieutenant Thompson. He's the one that applied for the grant, and I'll give credit where it's due. He's done a great job, and he's going to put on the presentation and break down the grant as far as to what it is.
PowerPoint? Ivan, you're going to have to move over a little. Mayor?
Yes.
Ivan Rodriguez there from Channel 9 is an Arizona State University graduate.
Arizona State.
Yeah, Arizona State.
Oh, man.
Good man. He's a good man.
Good afternoon,
I don't want
Mayor.
to I don't want to get ganged up or anything like that. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Robert Thompson, Patrol Lieutenant overseeing patrol operations in Nogales Police Department. Today we're here to talk briefly about the body-worn cameras, how much it may cost us, what the matching grant is and how much out of pocket that would be. So what is a body worn camera? I know some of you guys were not here last time we did this presentation, so as respect to everybody, officer body worn camera, or BWCs, are relatively small devices that record interactions between community members, the public suspects, victims, and law enforcement officers. The video and audio recordings from body worn cameras can be used by law enforcement to demonstrate transparency. Bold and in italics, demonstrate transparency to their communities, to document statements, observations, behavior, and other evidence, and to deter unprofessional, illegal, and inappropriate behaviors by both law enforcement and the public. Straight out of the BJA website. General consensus. The general public seems to be in favor of the law enforcement adopting the use of body-worn cameras. Hell, we agree. We want them. Law enforcement advocates for the use of the cameras. Biggest setback is the overall cost. Fortunately, we've been able to acquire a grant, a matching grant, in the amount that we'll discuss in a little bit. So as you can see way at the bottom, I apologize, a little over $12 million were given out to law enforcement agencies throughout the U.S., in which 2 from Arizona got one. Nogales for $82,500 and Yuma for a little bit over $116,000. 2 in the state of Arizona, Nogales being one. Department of Justice Award. It's a matching grant. Well, what is a matching grant? We were awarded $82,500, in which we would be responsible for $36,680, about 44%. Total amount would be $119,180. What will $119,000 give us? Well, let's get to that. Quote from a preliminary vendor. This quote is a little bit aged, so there might be some fluctuation. I'll put that in the front. How much? I'm not too sure, as technology changes every 30 seconds, as we all know. So there might be some bigger, better products out there right now. Year 1. To implement this, we're looking at about $98,000. We got that covered. If the city adopts this and we get the order and we get the funding, we match it, we got $119,000. A little over $20,000 left over. That, of course, I would like to roll over into year number 2. Preliminary quote for year number 2 is a little over $56,000. Year 3, year 4, and year 5 would be the same, for a grand total of $322,000, give or take, fluctuation, technology costs, and a whole bunch of other good stuff that we'd be getting. Sustainability grants, they are available. Well, how much can we get? It all depends on how much we would be owing, how much we would get, what the Department of Justice has, or any other grant availabilities that are out there. So in order for me to get you a solid number now, it'd be impossible. Number 1, we don't have this working, so as soon as we get that, I could apply for just about anything, and that's our plan to do so. Our goal is to minimize the out-of-pocket expense for the city. Year 1, we'd be asking for 55 cameras, approximately $26,955 is what the actual cameras would cost. Other hardware, about $10,458, which are peripherals, ports, chargers, a whole bunch of other good stuff that we would need. Licensed software, as you can see, it's the same cost recurring every year, $56,160, roughly. $4,500 in technical support setup and some training costs that would be incumbent and all that. So we're looking at about a little over $98,000 for year 1. Again, if we adopt this and we get that extra funding, that matching funding of $36,000, we have this in the bag, and we have a little bit left over to roll over to year number 2. Year number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Equipment, again, $56,160, and that would be the amount for years 2, 3, 4, and 5. Year 2 would be a little bit less because we have that rollover. We would just to get sustainability grants or other funding sources, or maybe we're lucky and we find a goose that lays the golden egg and we have funding forever, right? So if it breaks, part of years 2, 3, 4, and 5 is warranty and equipment replacements. If any camera breaks, we get them replaced. Cameras can be upgraded. We'll actually get 3 cameras, so it's day 1, halfway through month 30, and then at the end it's 16 months. So we get 3 cameras. If at any given point in time we break one, we get a new one. Doesn't cost us anything. Warranties will take care of that. Warranty is good for a whole 5 years, and I guess the biggest question is, you know, the out-of-pocket costs that this would incur on the city. We're trying to mitigate that as best we can through sustainability grants, and then we still have a lot of foundation to do. Policies which we have drafted, and I know Dr. Varone is going to have a field trip with this one. ASU is working with us. Actually,
you had to plug that in.
I have to. Actually, they're the
all in favor.
They're the they're the appointed subject matter experts in this. So I mean, they're just up the road, and we have a conference call every month to make sure what it is. So policy and training, to be specific as to what we need as foundation before we move forward on the program. However, the issue is getting the funding. So what happens after 5 years? We start all over again. Or we continue, we get different vendors, what have you, but I foresee this project can just be there for the long haul. Any questions anybody may have?
I was I think Councilman Henesian and I are a little bit confused here. On year 2, 3, 4, and 5, where you had that $56,000,
Yes, sir.
does that come out of our general fund?
If I can get sustainability,
Okay.
I'm not sure what the amount would be. Whatever left over is something that we would have to probably get from GF, general funding, or some other sources.
Dr. Felix, are you prepared for that?
And
You know, there isn't anybody here that doesn't favor the law enforcement, okay? But I just want to make sure on that year 2, 3, 4, and 5, and hopefully there's a warranty that we can buy after that in case
Exactly.
the camera breaks or something that
Exactly.
we can purchase. But I support this, but I need your recommendation to say that there is going to be money that we, for the next budget for year 2, that we can fund them. Is that?
I'll work with the police department to see what grant opportunities there might be, other funding sources, and we'll try to make a go of it. Let's get our heads together and plan that out.
definitely. And if I could just add one more little thing, this is the higher end model. There's a lower end model for about 145,000. So it varies a lot.
Yes, go ahead.
Officer Thompson, I mean, looking at that $56,000 a year, I mean, what are the chances we're going to get a grant for that? I mean, is there a usual grant for that, or are we actually going to be saying we're paying for those $56,000 a year? So if that's what the story is, I mean, are we ready to it, or are we prepared for it, or is the city budget prepared for it?
It would be hit and miss, Councilman Hanesian, for the simple fact that there's more than one entity applying for these sustainability grants. We were lucky enough to get the implementation grant, which there's a lesser demand for those because other agencies already have their camera system. So this is a little bit more competitive. Sustainability grants are a little bit more competitive. However, we're new at the game, so we may gain some favor behind that because we're new at it, and other departments have been able to sustain themselves without that funding. So I think we have a good shot at more sustainability grants.
Mr. Henesian, the fact that we're on the border, the fact that we're one of only 2 cities from Arizona that got that grant, I think I have a good feeling that we're going to be getting a sustainability grant.
So you're saying, thank God we have a wall, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not even gonna get into that. You know, we're following the best practices, we're being transparent, we're bridging that gap of trust between the community and the Nogales Police Department. Realistically, if you really look at it, $56,000 is a drop in the bucket compared to a litigation that we would have to fight. So this is something that protects the community, protects our officers, and most importantly, shows transparency in the community.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Chief, do you think that this will become a mandate or a requirement for all police departments in the state and in the country in the future?
Sir, I wouldn't say a mandate, but that's best practices that most police departments across the nation are following. So that's where we're at, and I mean, there's so many things that have happened, pro and con with these cameras. So we're protecting both the officer and the community. And,
so that should make it easier for applying for grants in the future, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Chief, and in regards to the officers, how do they feel, your officers, wearing a camera?
There's some officers right now that have their own cameras that they go out and buy on Amazon to protect themselves, just in case something happens.
Okay,
so I see why should they be doing that when it's our responsibility to protect them and to protect our community. So this will cover both ends, the officer and the community itself.
They're all good though?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you very much, Chief. I know that you and I have talked about some additional training and some courses that we could perhaps consider through entities that are also moving in this direction. I know that we talked about perhaps next month we could bring the contract before council for that additional training, as well as a legal training on the use of those cameras. So I look forward to collaborating with you on that, and looking further into that contract with that particular legal team that specializes on this subject. Thank you.
Just two things, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councilman.
First of all, I'm just a little bit worried about police officers wearing their own cameras without there being a policy and the liability with that, okay? So I would like some research on that, because they wear what our policies that says they can wear, including their gun. They can't say, I don't want this gun and I'm going to bring my own gun for my protection. So if you please look into that to make sure we don't get into a problem. The other thing is, Chief, I noticed on this grant here, where it says grantee acceptance. On October the 2nd, 2018, you signed and accepted this grant. Did you tell the Department of Justice that the City of Nogales had accepted this grant?
No, sir.
How come you signed it?
Actually, that was the acceptance of, I guess, their offer, if you want to call it that. But nothing gets accepted until it's accepted by mayor and council.
Did you send this acceptance to the Department of Justice?
Yes, I did. If it has my signature, I did.
Yeah. We need to be careful with that, though, too, because I don't want to get caught in that a department head tells a grantee that we accepted it. The council comes up here and says, we don't have the money, we reject it, and now we don't look good with the Department of Justice. So please make a protocol for that, so we don't get caught in something that, because it could have been here that 4 of us said no because of the money. This should not happen. There should be proper protocol, Dr. Felix, and you should make sure that it's followed on there. Mr. Mayor, I'm all in favor of this grant right now.
You are?
I'm in favor of it. Yes,
Okay, so at the beginning you mentioned, and you said you actually wanted Mr. Felix to look into it. So you're in favor?
No, I'm in favor. What I want, his policy that nobody signs any acceptance to any grant.
No, prior to that, when we were talking about the monies, you said, are you okay with it? And he said
he was.
Okay.
So he can work it out.
And then he said, well, we're going to have to do some miracles on the budget. Okay, so we're okay?
He's good at miracles.
Okay.
I've seen
All right.
that, so
Okay.
we're okay.
All right, then, no more discussion? Okay, move to approve order number 2019-01002.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Order number 2, consideration and possible action of order 2019-02-003, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, approving a sub-grantee agreement with the Arizona Department of Homeland Security for a Stone Garden grant in the amount of $817,412 in reimbursable overtime and mileage.
So moved, Mayor.
Second. Discussion?
Here again, Mayor. Back to what we were talking about, the Constantine wire.
See, right there.
We try to work in partnership, because what we're doing is in conjunction with the federal
Yes.
government. Yet the Pima County Board of Supervisors reject these grants because of the overarching control they want to have with the federal government and the local sheriff's department. But we sit here and say, we want to work together. We want to be partners. And now they're telling us they don't want to be partners with us. And that has created a big division. And now that the chairman of the Port Authority is here, just for you to know, because you represent us though too, we don't like the way that some of the members of the Port Authority, the CBP in particular, has treated the City of Nogales. And I hope that is mentioned at the next meeting. Okay, Mayor, that's all I have.
Anybody else? Did you want to speak?
No, just clarification.
No. Just come to the podium. State your name and your address, please.
Guillermo Valencia, 1495 West Calle Plata, current chairman of the Port Authority. Marcelino, CBP is not a member of
Well,
the
they're
Port
there
Authority.
every meeting.
They attend.
Express to them.
Yes,
our feelings.
for sure.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? No discussion?
They're not, Mr. Councilman Henesian brings out a good point to Mr. Valencia. They're not paying members,
That's correct.
but they're there for a freebie.
And they're not members of the board.
Yeah, well, they're there for a freebie, because they want help from this organization that we give $50,000 to help improve their staffing and the port of entry, okay?
Yeah.
They want our help for that, because it was the effort, the combined efforts of the Port Authority and the City of Nogales that lobbied Governor Napolitano to get those $200 million for that port that they were not able to do themselves.
Yeah. A lot of letters went out of the City Hall.
Yeah. But how
For
quickly
their
they
support.
forget.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, move to approve order number 2019-02-003. Second.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Guys have it. Thank you very much. Order number 3, consideration possible action of order 2019-02-005, an order of the City Council of the City of Nogales adopting an amendment to the City Personnel Manual, Section 18.03, regarding accrual of use of paid sick time off. This is legal?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. So we have modified our Section 18.03 of our Personnel Manual, Mr. Mayor, members of council, to reflect the update, the statutory update. And so there are some sections that have been added. I'll just I'm going to ask Mr. Massey to perhaps assist us with a discussion, if there is a discussion, so on the matter. In essence, it's allowing our employees to use sick leave and do it in line with current statutory law. And there are some sections that were left intact. But the new sections basically allow for our employees to be able to assert if they're sick and they want to use their sick leave. Perhaps we can open up for discussion, and I'm sure some questions will arise, and between Mr. Massey and I can address them.
Mr. Mayor, this is very clean cut. At a general election, Proposition 206 was passed by the people of the state of Arizona. We are setting our policies to comply with Proposition 206. It's as simple as that. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Okay, very good. Good job, Mr. Massey. You're good. What was he like, going like this to you? Like, you knew about it, huh? Okay, move to approve.
So moved.
Second. Wait a minute, let me finish. Yes. Move to approve order number 2019-02-005.
So moved. So moved. Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Order number 4, consideration possible action of order 2019-02-006, an order of the Council of the City of Nogales, Arizona, authorizing the purchase of one 2019 Ford F550 Type 6 fire apparatus brush truck and one 2019 Ford F550 Rapid Response Rescue Truck, Nogales Fire Department. Is this, you going to take this one, Mr. Felix?
Well, the chief is there to explain the process.
Chief?
We undertook the bidding.
Good evening.
You have 2
Mayor,
minutes, Chief. No, I'm just
members
joking.
of council. What's that? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just joking. No, that's
So these projects were funded in this budget year under the capital improvements for the overall city. The purpose of the vehicles, the first one is a when we talk about a brush truck, it's a pickup truck with this one's going to have 400 gallons of water and a pump to respond to wildland fires. I know you're familiar with that. That is a major threat that we have here in the city. We also staff a wildland team that responds nationwide. That has been a real win-win for us in terms of training, but also in terms of a revenue source. I've got some figures there for the last 2 years. So we're going to replace. We have 3 brush trucks. The oldest one is a 1990. It's 29 years old, and we will replace that brush truck with a new brush truck. The new brush truck is going to be spec'd out to kind of meet the needs of modern wildland firefighting. There's going to be more room. There's going to be more water. The pump's going to be strong. It's going to be a really nice truck. We spent a lot of time going through the specs and trying to make sure, talking to our people, our boots on the ground, that this is going to fit our need. The second vehicle is going to be another pickup truck with what's essentially going to be a large utility box on the back, and we're going to outfit that with various tools and equipment from an all hazards kind of approach to include medical supplies. But what that's really going to do is replace the fire engine from responding to emergency medical calls. So it'll replace engine 301, which is parked down here at the fire station here at Station 1. They respond to about 4 to 8 calls a day. 2 ambulances alternate, but that fire engine goes on every call. And they go into the downtown area where the streets, the topography, and trying to get in and out, and it's wear and tear on an expensive vehicle. Fire engine, type 1 type fire engine is about $600,000. And we want to reduce the wear and tear. We want to increase the safety of the public because we're going to be responding in a more maneuverable vehicle. We want to make it easier on our personnel to get in and out, and also there's some fuel savings. There's about $4,000 a year in fuel savings that this is going to help us out with. So that second vehicle, but it'll give them something that they will have some tools, they will have the things they need, and it'll be essentially a chase vehicle on emergency medical calls to help the ambulance out, and then go available as soon as they can and be ready for that next call. And so these are the 2 vehicles that we're hoping to purchase to fill those needs.
Good. Councilman?
Thank you. When this came up, and I've heard the rendition several times, the only thing that I question that I can't understand, why does it take you 8 months to get a request for proposals out here to us, and it's going to take another 8 months to get the vehicles delivered to us? That is a year and a half for something that you tell us we need right away. So if you're, and we made a commitment to do it, and we made a commitment, so the other members of the council know, we made a commitment to purchase the big fire truck for you because you need that though too. But if you keep saying for the safety of the people, why is it taking you so long to get these things done?
Absolutely, Dr. Vrona. I understand your concerns with that. I can explain to you the process. When we first started this a year ago, as the fire chief, I was trying to make the best decision for the city, and what I had saw at that time was a number of used demo type vehicles that were available. I came to ask for $120,000 for each vehicle to try to show that I can make this work very fiscally responsible. Well, when it came time to look, those were gone, and we had new used vehicles to look at. And previous Councilman Diaz was helping us with that. He kept helping us too, but everyone we looked at, it would have water damage. It was a salvage title. It did not fit what we needed. So, because initially we didn't think we'd have enough to get new vehicles. That was based on our local kind of vendors in Arizona. Well, the more we started to reach out, we came to find vendors that we feel like we can do this. We can get a new vehicle under budget. So then we started that process. So there was a time of trying to get a used vehicle, and then there was the time of trying to get the spec out the new vehicle. And this is not just regular sedans that the police, purchase. There's a lot that goes into speccing these vehicles out. Then we had to turn around and do the RFP process and follow the procurement policies of the city, which, sealed bids, and we went through the whole 9 yards. And here we are today. So yes, I understand your concern, but we've worked very diligently on this since you approved it. We have been working on this. And the fleet supervisor has been a great help as well. And myself, we spent a lot of time and energy making sure that we do the right thing for the city. This is going to be a good investment. These are new vehicles, and we have warranties. And we're very proud of the work here. So,
And Mayor, Councilman Lopez, and Councilman Bojorquez, we the previous council agreed and told Dr. Felix for the police department and the fire department, we don't want used vehicles.
No, I was about to say that.
So, on this other truck,
Understand.
we want new vehicles.
Yes.
It's public safety, and we don't want to purchase somebody else's problems.
Understand.
Okay? So, on this next one, so I just want the other members to know, because we made these commitments, and we hope that you will stay with us so that we don't send different signals.
Yes, I understand.
And we are working on that Type 1 engine as we speak. We have vendors. We've gone through hours and hours of specking. We had them bring a truck down just the other day. So we're getting ready for that move as well, because that's going to be another need that I'm glad to have the support of the council on that.
Councilman Schmidt?
Yeah, I think we did budget $240,000.
Correct.
So why do you say you were looking at used when we budgeted 240, which is the price of new ones?
Because we initially reached out to vendors that maybe have more of a brand name in the trucks that they build. I mean, these are Ford F-550s. I mean, it's the same chassis and the same equipment. But our initial vendors were telling us, the going rate for a new brush truck is about $108,000. The going rate for a new rescue truck is you can be over $200,000 for a new one. That was our initial search.
But we are getting new ones.
Yes, we expanded our
and it came
search.
in under budget.
That is
So
correct.
They dropped in price or what?
No, we expanded our search and expanded our search more and more, and found companies that build these vehicles at a more affordable rate. They have less overhead. They're not making. When you look at fire engines, there's a custom fire engine and there's a commercial cab fire engine, And the companies that make the custom fire engines, they have a lot of overhead. There's just a lot going on there, so they charge more. And we were able to find vendors that we believed we were going to find vendors to come in on an affordable price, so we went ahead and did the RFP. But it has to do with us expanding our search and getting out there and calling and making phone calls and asking other people and asking other departments, and when the time came and we were able to come up with this.
Okay, okay, you're replacing. Then you're going to replace two trucks as it is.
We're replacing a brush truck with the new brush truck. The rescue truck is an addition, but what it will do is replace the fire engine from going on daily calls. But it is an addition.
Which I think we brought up several times.
Yes.
That's why the fire engine would be going
Yes.
every time. It's a complete waste of money. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what happens to the one you're getting rid of? Is that just junked, or is that sold, or is that traded in, or what?
Sure, it goes back to city fleet, and they look at auctioning. It goes through their process of auctioning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the idea is to get it off our insurance policy, also not to be carrying cars we're not going to be using.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Call for the question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Move to approve order number 2019-20. No, excuse me. 2019-02-006.
So move.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Okay. Members of the city council, we're going to be going into executive session. Do I have a...
So move, Mayor.
Second.
Mayor, under discussion on the executive session, the first executive session that we're having regarding to instruct its attorney regarding its position and settlement discussions with Keno Springs Golf Course regarding overcharges for irrigation water. I would like to have Mr. Suarez and Mrs. Perales in the executive sessions for some discussion there at the beginning.
Okay, we'll do that. So I have the... Okay. All in favor? Okay, let's go. on this item number 2.
You want to read item number 2 just?
No, well, that's actually it.
You want to vote, Mayor?
Yeah, well, let's make
So
a motion.
moved, Mayor.
Second? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Joseph.
We've been here since 3 o'clock.
Too much talking.
I gotta seize for something.
¿Verdad?
What are we doing tomorrow?
Por su culpa.
Oh, tomorrow. Chance for 11:30. Where's Joe?
No, he's already home.
He's on the panel at 10. 11:30, Mr. C. That's a good one.
Dulcecito.
Oye, pero no bonito comentar para que no se enojen.
Si tengo 2 aguas aquí.
Dulcecito. La Councilwoman Melendez y Marcy Milano se hacen sordos. Se hacen sordos.
No.
Comas es veneno, Marcia. No agarres esas cosas.
Vienen chilositos.
Dame a los chilositos.
Chocolates.
They're not chocolates, no what?
¿Qué son? Dulces.
Esos son enchilosos.
Eso.
¿Cuáles son? Ah, no, esos no son de menta. ¿Que la quieres mucho?
Oye,
te voy a llevar
is the
uno a mi
mayor doing
esposa.
another television interview? Is he doing another TV interview?
He's in the restroom, Mayor.
Oh. Yeah, because this thing that TV interview, yeah, that's enough of that. You're just falling behind on our work here, eh? Que estaba haciendo otro TV interview.
Sí,
in the bathroom.
He said, Marcy, that he wants 50% of the interviews. So,
Yes.
so
Thank you.
from now on, you gotta give him the other 50%.
I will.
Mira, no more recycling, so ya, lo tiro.
Yeah. Reconvene from executive session, and let's see. So it's on the order? Yeah, correct. Consider possible action of order 2019-02-004.
Motion to approve order number 2019-02-004 with the exception under number 1 that the name of the preferred candidate be left blank and that the city manager is authorized to enter into negotiations with the preferred candidate.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor, any discussion? Well, no discussion.
No.
Sorry about that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay? The ayes have it. Okay. Item number 9, Mayor and Council's report on current affairs, events. I didn't want to forget that one. Remember, I almost forgot it last time? Okay, you're
Mayor?
first.
No, I just wanted to express, we went over there and to the Tohoto O'odham Rodeo Parade, and it was wonderful. What a wonderful experience. The way we were treated, the VIP passes that they gave us, they treated us wonderful. Mayor, I think you and Councilman Maldonado have an excellent rapport with the Vice Chairman and the Chairman to get us some more money over here, and we should capture those relationships. I think we were the new kids on the block, but it was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was just going to be 1 hour and we were out of there, and we didn't leave till 5 o'clock. It was good, and the public relations there was wonderful. That's all I have, Mayor, that I have.
Anybody else?
Unfortunately, the chief of the fire chief left, but I wanted to congratulate him. He's starting off his CPR courses on the third Saturday of the month, starting this Saturday, the 16th. It's something we started talking about almost a year and a half ago, and I think it's something to make it a safer city. I think there's a limit to 15. I was going to ask him how many applications he had already for this coming Saturday, but I think it's very good that we're looking into educating people how to CPR and first alert.
We don't have to train ourselves. Are you sure you're okay?
I'm getting recertified. I'm already certified.
No, but I'm talking about you need to knock off some pounds. Come on.
If there's any CPA in Marsh, he will give it to you.
Boy, you're dead.
They kill me.
Let me just mention.
Okay.
I gave you a copy of this new project. I want to thank you and Kathy and your office for helping me. And I think it's really a good program. I'm going to leave some copies outside for you to be aware of what we're talking about. And it involves all the schools, the 6th graders. It's a project where we're going to be building butterflies, and then we're going to have a display at Cotton Park. I think it's going to be very, very nice, and the community is going to be involved. The families are going to be involved, not only the kids. So I think it's a great program.
And I hope you include as a sponsor the Santa Cruz Provisional Community College.
Okay, I will. Yes.
Let me give you at the Santa Cruz Training Center, which is the elderly with needs. They worked a lot on this. I'll give my wife, but if you
perfect
go over there and explain what you guys are doing and how, I'll give you her name and everything. So.
Oh, okay.
Christmas, they build Christmas houses and all that.
Perfect.
Out of carton and everything. They do very good.
It's the training school.
The training.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we want everybody to be involved.
My wife's going to win first place.
Oh, maybe that's what you want.
Okay, I just have one thing to say. I was invited to speak at the economic forum in Tucson, with mayor from Sierra Vista and the mayor from Oro Valley. It was a great event. I was able to express, how important Nogales was with trade, and also we also plan to help each other with 3 communities for actually economic development. So these are good opportunities for us in Nogales, and also they're going to be visiting us, and I'm sure they're going to be delighted to get our resolution once it's completed, and these are the people that are going to be helping us out also on that effort too. So now item number 10, future agenda items. I have one on I believe it's the 20th. I plan members of the City Council to have a special meeting, and that'll be next Wednesday. Is it possible, members of the City Council?
Well, I had down there that I had something down for the city and it was canceled, changed to the 28th, so I'm available the 20th.
20th. Everybody on the 20th available?
It's Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
What is it?
Well,
I'm putting the agenda item for the Children's Museum.
What time?
Early? And I want to have it early.
3 o'clock?
Yeah, about 3 o'clock or so.
Please, because I do have a...
What was the date?
The 20th?
Mayor?
Wednesday, next week?
If it's early, I got no problem, because at 6 o'clock I've got a district Little League meeting.
No problem. We'll have it.
And what
I want to do is just have that one item by itself.
Sure.
And I'm asking Mr. Parra, please have everything prepared for that, so that when we come to that meeting in reference to the Children's Museum, I don't want to come back again and talk about it. We either accept it or we don't, but we do it.
But I would like to have the copy of the contract.
February the 20th.
Basically for next week, a week before the.
It's too much for me.
Before, right? I don't want to have the copy of the contract at the time there. I have to read it. So
Yes.
I would like to have it.
On Monday.
A week before. Yes.
No, that's next Wednesday.
No, it's
The
not.
20, no, I'm sorry.
Would be the
2
following.
weeks from now.
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
As long as we get it next week.
Yeah, as long as we get it next week, so we
yes.
can read it before
We
the,
can read it,
give it 4 or 5 days before
Yeah.
the actual meeting.
Okay.
And did you ever have the meeting with Mr. Ponosopoulos?
I did.
You did? Okay, please advise them that we're going to be having the meeting on the 20th, and the time, and 3 o'clock. Madam Clerk? Yes.
And I think that, Mayor, 3 o'clock for our study sessions is a good time, because today we had a
Yes.
time to and we got everything accomplished.
Yes, and it was
But this is gonna be an actual meeting.
No, this is a meeting, yes, this is a meeting, yeah. It's an action item.
Mr. Felix, make sure that Mr. Panasopoulos' lawyers get a copy of the contract too, right? I mean, you know, that we don't wanna come in here and find out that they have some objections to the contract.
Yeah. You know, we try to make it as smooth as possible. Yay or nay, as smooth as possible, okay? Because I think you've been going through this a couple of years already, and some of the board members are not even there anymore, and so, let's get it taken care of.
Yeah, could we give that day, Dr. Verona Day, one day in Phoenix, free of charge? The city will pay, you know, have them out of town at the time.
Out of order.
Out of order. Schumer out of order. Okay.
Councilman Schumer.
Councilman Schumer. Yeah, and one more thing. Mr. Kissinger, you had something else that you wanted to put on there that day. Did we discuss something, you and I? Something that was brief? You wanted to get it done on the same day?
Yes, sir. The police department has 2 recognitions that they want to give.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Okay.
One for an employee, one for a citizen.
Yes, that's true. We have 2 recognitions on that day too. So those will go right quick. So we'll take care of that. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have anything before we go?
Mayor. Future agenda items?
That's what it was.
Oh, no, that wasn't. That was council report.
No, future agenda items.
I have a future agenda item.
But that's for the.
I saw you grabbing the gap. I thought you were going to come down.
Okay, but this is not for the special meeting.
No.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to have
for the next meeting.
Yes, for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Felix, if we could do something proactive that you start planning, maybe Mr. Dillon can do this with the Parks and Recreation Department. Every time we have that holiday parade, it's been a repeat and a blah. We need to do something, in my opinion, to attract people down there, especially from out of town, and make something in Karen Park, besides putting that little tree right there with lights. We need to invest a little money, get some people with creativity to put some paintings. Let's do something to make that place, you know, the culture. Get people involved, set some money aside, start working on it now so we can market it in September and say, look at Karen Park, we're going to transform Karen Park into something really beautiful.
Wonderland.
Well, whatever, but we need to do something to bring people. I notice in the other communities, they have attractions. Yeah. We don't. We just say we're going to have a parade and we just go through the motions of the parade.
Are you going to be the Grand Marshal or what?
No. My days are over.
Are you going to be like
I told you guys I'm on the 95-yard line.
No bar will be. I think it's your turn.
Got to make sure it gets off at 6 o'clock exactly.
Yes.
Hey, everything gets off at 6 o'clock.
Yes. And Mayor, that I'd like to just discuss. Okay. And then the other thing is, I was reading the newsletter from the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, and it seems like cities are now passing a policy policy of no minutes, only audio. That we don't have to have minutes anymore. As long as we have a policy, they said in their deal from the legal, that we can have just the audio to be our official record. Just something that you might look in to see if we want to do it. I don't know if you want to do it, but we can legally do that. Then the other thing is, Mayor, in April, the city attorney's contract expires. I want to talk about that, but I want to make sure that you instruct the city attorney that we have an outside attorney to give us advice. I don't want to go through this, that the city attorney is going into executive session with us and giving us legal advice on his contract. So we need to authorize, or you need to get us an outside attorney so we can figure out what we're going to do. And we also need to start talking about the city manager's contract, because his expires in August. So we know what we're going to do, because there's 3 new people here. So we got to get everybody up to speed so we make good decisions and sound public policy.
There you go. Yes?
So I have 2 items. This for our next meeting.
Yeah, for the
one of
Wednesday
them.
meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One of them was, and this comes from the previous administration,
that we discussed a painting for Bob Baffert. And staff was asked to come back, and hopefully they can bring back that information to that meeting. The other thing that has come to my attention is the usage of the gym over here. The hours and the people that are using it. There was a kids league, basketball league. They were asked to leave. I'll just use that word. This was a few weeks ago. And also there's an adult league that was affected by that decision. Again, I don't know who made that decision, but it was brought to my attention, and maybe we can discuss it.
Is that on the housing?
Yes, on the housing.
Mr. Mayor, just for a point of clarification, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Councilman Rojas, the adults are now playing at the Pearson gym.
Oh, did they go over there?
Yeah, they
Okay.
opened it up for them. I don't know about the kids, but the adults are now at the Pearson gym.
Okay. All right. And we can discuss it further.
Yes, but also on the same note, this happened at the gymnasium here also, where some of the games are cut short for whatever reason.
That's 7
Somebody
o'clock.
decides that we're cutting the game short, and the kids are all saying, why? Why are we, even if they're not kids, they might be 25 years old or whatever.
Scheduling
But
problems.
why are any games, and this has gone back quite a lot of years, this is just not new.
Right.
I mean, this goes back to when my kid was playing basketball, so we're talking 10 years ago.
Maybe, you know, maybe this could be something we could discuss in the study session instead of.
No,
Study
yeah.
session instead of.
We just bring up what
Yeah.
we can discuss.
Because
it in
we
the
can
study
discuss there, and then we can have staff.
Yeah, you can
recreation
decide
staff.
that.
Yes,
No?
we can do that.
Okay, we're ready now, Mayor.
Okay, ready? Now if I grab the gavel, it's okay?
To adjourn.
Means adjourned.
Schumer had to talk. Councilman Schumer had to talk so much, we would have been home by 6.
Mark, remember 50% of the television coverage, I want Marcia.
Yes, I will. I'll give it